Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff and Landon and Barbara, and welcome, Kayla. Renee Irely from the city of Santa Barbara. And in talking specifically about our pilot around safe shelter and addressing encampments in fire-prone areas, I would say that we are almost a month into it. We officially started July 1st, and things continue to go really well. And again, I think it's a real testament to all the outreach that had been done to the community up until then. Again, I'll let Emily and CityNet talk more about the specifics of what's happening at the hotel under our master lease agreement. But my understanding is that we have at least 37 people in there as of a couple of days ago from the encampments. As we are approaching the encampments, again, we have several that are priority areas. We have essentially moved all of them out and into housing. There's been very little need to cite anyone or to have ongoing concerns, and that it's been very quiet at the hotel as well, which is also good news. On the encampment cleanup side, we've been coordinating with Caltrans and using a combination of their staff, our staff, and city contractors, namely Big Green, to handle the cleanups. We have been and have cleaned several sites around the Castillo on and off ramps, Garden Street, and Carrillo. Because we are still transitioning to the full master lease at the hotel, we're probably going to be taking a pause on moving anyone else in the next week or so, but we will be scheduling some additional trash only cleanup so that we can continue to reduce material and contain those areas in preparation and moving on to the next sites. So that's what's going on specifically with that area. We can go ahead and hand it over to Emily if she doesn't have any questions. And then I do have some information about more generally about what's happening across all the encampments, which I can share as well.
Great, thanks, Renee. Emily?
Yeah, hey guys. It's been super successful so far. I've had the pleasure to do some overnights there and connect with the clientele, and just everyone at the site is so grateful for all that we've provided to them. And they're maintaining their behavior and really working towards their goals. So I'm really happy to see the progress that we've made thus far. We are at 39 individuals in our motel project. We have 2 individuals who are at a different site because we ran out of motel rooms, but we're able to case manage them. We've gotten 6 people document ready. So that means that they're one step closer to getting housing vouchers or getting in line for rapid rehousing dollars. And so 6 people are document ready and 4 people have started the pre-application process to get an emergency housing voucher. So that's also super exciting. We have 1 individual who was just employed by a security company and started his new job. And so we're just seeing such great progress. We have another client who is now tending the hotel's management. So sweeping, cleaning, putting the trash away, pruning the hedges and those types of activities. And so that's also awesome to see everyone contributing to keeping the site a community. So thus far, I'm really happy with the project and how it's been going.
Like, can you confirm the number of individuals you're serving? Renee mentioned 37. I've seen 38 or 39.
It's officially 39.
Okay, great. That's great.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And then we had a question from Sharon in the chat about seeing an inundation on Coast Village from camp evictions and path evictions. What is our plan to mitigate this? And from my understanding, most people have embraced that referral and transition to bridge housing. But Emily, can you speak to if we do have a number of individuals that have not accepted that and in turn have been moving to other areas?
Yeah, I think this is a great example as not playing the whack-a-mole strategy, as we describe it, where we go to clear and clean, but not provide alternative sheltering options to these encampments. The latest research, especially on encampments, show that providing this non-congregate sheltering that is trauma-informed care is the best way to help these individuals. And so from our 3 projects, we've cleared and cleaned and provided shelter for every single individual living in those camps. There was not one person who refused services, and there's not one person from the 3 sites that we have worked on that did not go into shelter. There are some movement from other camps when the shelter is not provided or the option is not provided. And so that may be what they're seeing and feeling in Montecito, but it's not coming from this specific fire endangerment encampment project.
Sharon, can you provide some clarification on that? Because that's what we've been observing, at least on the encampment side. And like Jeff said, we can talk specifically with PATH on what's happening during the East Side RAP call on Friday.
Sure. So Be Well reported on the SBCOT team meeting yesterday that they are meeting new people in the encampment, some of whom are saying that their camp was cleared, and that's why they've moved to the Coast Village area. The area in question is Hot Springs at Coast Village. That was cleared in April of this year, so we're super dismayed to see that get reoccupied. There's a gentleman that's rolling around out in the middle of the road in a wheelchair that was evicted from PATH last week. He's been one of their clients for a straight up year. Apparently he didn't want to participate in his own housing and his own getting off of drugs. And so he's now our problem. And so, you know, in the Montecito area, we had gotten down to 3 individuals that we were still actively working with that are Be Well cases. We're probably now up to 11 or 12 now. And it's all happened in the last 2 weeks. So if you are going to tell me that this isn't in some way related to the camp cleanout, I'm going to dispute it.
So Sharon, I can share from my perspective of working in Santa Maria, Lompoc, Carpinteria, and Santa Barbara. One of the issues is, so I know for as far as CityNet and the city of Santa Barbara and our team, we're trying to avoid the whack-a-mole strategy, but there's no way that we can stop people from moving to a region if that's where they want to move to. Do you know what I mean? I've just seen that in Santa Maria, I've seen it in Lompoc, I've seen in the city that people are going to migrate. And until, as the SBAC team, as we try to also work on creating more of that flow, what Emily's talking about, that system flow, so that people can have enough bridge housing, shelter beds, and permanent housing to go into. People migrating because they have the right to be in Montecito, the right to be in Santa Barbara or Lompoc or Santa Maria. To me, that's just the reality of individual chronic homelessness. But I'll open it up to other folks too. We're trying as much as we can. We're trying as much as we can as far as a city plan to come up. That's why we did this program the way we did it, as Emily described, to try to open up as much housing, bridge housing as we can to not do that. But people have a right to migrate. Homelessness is just not a crime.
We're not saying that it is. But we are saying that we had a pretty robust response going, and all of a sudden we see a new influx, and it started right at the time of the camping cleanouts. The other thing I want to be really clear and unequivocal about is that, you know, some of the efforts that have gone on, we've tried really hard to coordinate with you guys to make sure that, you know, we weren't setting people adrift out of the Coast Village area and then just migrating them to East Beach, right? We've been really trying hard not to do that because we do not feel that that's a win, but we did not feel like we got the same consideration in return. And also 3 weeks ago on that city council meeting where this project was discussed, I pushed very hard to make sure that the Hot Springs area was also part of the camp cleanout list. And I just heard this morning, not even on the radar, right? Not even on the radar. City council agreed to that, but it's not on the radar right now. So guys, I'm sorry, but this isn't feeling like a very good working relationship. It's really feeling like you're doing your thing, and then we're just going to have to cope with whatever drifts our way. I don't really feel like that's a productive, positive partnering response.
Sharon, I would have to disagree. So of the count that you shared a couple of weeks ago, you had about a dozen people that migrated to other areas, Isla Vista, Santa Barbara, from your outreach efforts that happened in Montecito. So where the investment made by the city of Santa Barbara, $1.6 million in the bridge housing, and our initial baseline count of encampments is right on track. And actually, CityNet has helped more people that have shown up at those encampments that weren't part of the baseline count initially in those regions. So the numbers just don't add up in terms of the people that have accepted services, those who were residing in the encampments prior to cleanup, and how the cleanup is being processed. But I definitely note hot springs as being a separate issue.
Renee, do you want to speak to the?
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
One
Emily.
way that CityNet can kind of help mitigate is that I know that specifically to this encampment cleanup that we're talking about on this meeting, the 3 sites that we've cleaned up, not one person refused services and not one person was left on the streets. Everyone moved into shelter. But that's not to say that like De La Guerra Plaza or Pershing Park or Trees Palm Park, where they're trying to enforce a little bit heavier in those areas, that those are the individuals who may be coming up into Montecito. What we can do is kind of do a little point in time count ourselves, Sharon, and we'll send Kyle and Melissa out with you, and we can find out the regions that these individuals are actually coming from and whether it is Santa Barbara, because we're happy to help with that effort, but they're not coming from the 3 locations that we cleaned up at this time.
Right. So I think that's the piece. And Jeff, you're going to speak to that on the wrap calls this week. We're seeing movement in general because of more enforcement in parks, especially overnight camping. And so that movement to the encampment cleanup, it's going to be hard to distinguish, but the data is telling us that every single person that we've done outreach with encampments is accepting services. So it's tough to hear that they're saying that they're in Montecito because of that clearing. So let's get to the bottom of that, because we worked so hard to provide those options so that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I'm speaking more to the global reality of homelessness and migration versus our single project we're talking about here. And if Emily has the data connected to everyone from the encampment suites related to this project went into bridge housing, we can speak directly to that project. When we talk about, I just want to be realistic and practical. In my experience with trying to solve homelessness in different regions, I always saw people move from Lompoc to Santa Maria or back and forth and become someone else's person to try to serve, even as everyone tried to coordinate really well. That's just a part of the game until we have the full amount of housing and full amount of bridge housing and everything we need. So I don't think the city of Santa Barbara or any other city that I've worked with purposely moves people out without trying to serve, but I do know migration is just a part of the issue for the county. Renee, did you want to say anything regarding
yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, I agree with Emily that we acknowledge that there is more no camping enforcement that's occurring in the parks to try to balance that use of park usage. So I think it wouldn't surprise me that because we are seeing folks that are moving to other encampments within our jurisdiction. It wouldn't surprise me that they're moving into other jurisdictions. And I had a similar conversation with Galita last week about that and some options that we're looking at. And with regards to what the hotspots are and what are and aren't being considered, we haven't made a decision about which ones we're moving into yet. And part of that is because we have the criteria and the flexibility to be able to evaluate what priorities areas really are. And we're doing that in conjunction also with CityNet and with the hotel and the capacity that we have there, because part of that is determinant on that flow, and part of it's determinant on what areas really are becoming more encamped and meet that fire prone criteria. So we haven't made a decision about which is the next site.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone on this call, just in case you've conveniently forgotten, Coast Village Road is in the city of Santa Barbara. It's not some other jurisdiction. I just want to make that clear. Just in case you've forgotten, it isn't. I know it looks like it's Montecito, but it's actually your jurisdiction. And I did hear on that city council meeting, Renee, a couple of weeks ago, that they had actually agreed to put the hot springs and the East Beach area and the area under Bellas Guardo into the prioritization list. So if I need to go look at minutes or whatever, or you're going to have a circle back around decision, I'm happy to do that. But I want to be clear.
So I was there, and it is one of the sites. We haven't made a decision. What I'm saying is we have not made a decision about where we are going next.
We're at maximum capacity at the bridge housing units until we have city that has full control of that property. So the 39 individuals that have been housed are being supported, and then full control will happen, I believe, in 10 days, if not less.
It does, and the other piece of that is that this is a pilot. It's a 120-day pilot, and so part of our intent and commitment is also not to leave folks stranded or not with an exit strategy. And so that's part of what we need to be mindful to as well, is that those who are coming in, that they're getting their vouchers and that they're getting some place to live. And that's all part of what we're trying to coordinate to make sure that this is a success. And that is also going to weigh into how much work we can do in the field as well.
Sharon, please know, I mean, every provider and partner is working and committed to making sure that any displacement from encampments is not impacting other regions. It's just hard for us to know, as there is significant movement happening across regions in the city of Santa Barbara, what to do to prevent and mitigate, knowing that that outreach has been dedicated to the encampment piece. So I definitely want to work with you on this, absolutely, because you've worked so hard to get to that 3 individuals, knowing that we could be very well in the same place, that as we increase the number of individuals exiting homelessness, that we're going to have more folks moving and coming in as well. So it's, I don't want you to feel like we're shrugging our shoulders, that you're just dealing with this on your own, that we are in partnership trying to not only support individuals experiencing homelessness, but be able to reduce impacts in each region.
So I think we're going to go do a point in time count. We'll go interview folks. We'll get their stories for you. We'll give you the data, but it would be nice if this felt a little more like a partnership. And right now it doesn't. Sorry, it just doesn't. If it, you know, some of the comments of migrating to other jurisdictions when this is your jurisdiction, that does not, those comments are not helpful and do not feel like it's a partnership. Barbara and Jeff, I have no problem with you, or Emily. I work close and tight with you. It's not, this isn't your thing, but I'm frustrated that we're seeing a lot of ingress from City of Santa Barbara enforcement, and yet when it migrates to another part of the city's not there. So I'm expressing my frustration there.
And I understand, Sharon. My comments are more, and I think you understand where I'm coming from. You know, we will be working together with you on this for sure, continuing forward. I think I even heard from PATH, some of their recent data about people that are using PATH are first-time folks that they haven't worked with before. So I think there's some larger migration. I appreciate the data collection. I think that's really important, because I think that will help us to understand, okay, where do these folks come from? What is our strategy that we're using here that maybe is not helpful to other regions as well? So I appreciate that. And that's why we have these calls, right? To work on these issues together, even publicly, you know, to try to figure out where things aren't working and try to fix them. So thank you, Sharon. Are there other questions from other community members regarding what's going on regarding the encampment response? Feel free to use the chat as well. I see Brad Fieldhouse. I think it's Brad maybe just joining. Yeah, Brad and Jessica are jumping on, I believe.
Raj?
Go ahead, Raj.
Yeah.
So last week, there was a lady who made comments about since the encampments are getting cleaned up, it's pushing the homeless further out into the bushes. Well, you know, I'm really glad we're talking about the problem with this today, because you know, this morning when I woke up, I really had a great concern about the homeless being pushed out into the further or migrating further into the bushes. And my big question is where are these bushes? Where are they being pushed out further into the bushes? Because my greatest concern is if this is taking place, then that makes for a much higher fire danger. Because if they're further out into the bushes, I'm really concerned about people who own houses that are near those bushes. I mean, it could be a major fire. So that was my greatest concern that I woke up with this morning.
Renee, can you speak to the, because as you're moving people out of these fire-prone encampments, you're also following up within those encampments to try to keep those areas clean. And so can you speak to that process and how even though, you know, how you're going to choose your next site potentially, even though the bridge housing is full?
Sure, Jeff, and to Roger, and so we have a couple of things going on. So we do have ongoing monitoring of the encampments that have been cleaned and cleared, and so that's a combination of city staff that are going out and taking a look at those daily. And we also have on city staff that are checking in on other known encampments. And so that's part of what goes into evaluating of where folks are living or they're moving, and either creating new camps or those camps are enlarging. And that feeds into our decision making as well about where to go next and clean up. And again, even if we can't if we don't have space to be able to physically move people, we are doing more trash only cleanups as well. So that's part of that monitoring, but it's also, you know, kind of like the containment and hopefully also helping to reduce risks in those areas where folks are camping in the meanwhile.
Raj did that. Go ahead, Raj.
Yes. So if the homeless are moving further out into the bushes, how are we going about finding where they are if they're moving further out into the bushes? I mean, are we finding them? That's my big question.
Well, I think it's a good question, right? Because and part of that does come down to some of our city staff, and so we have our creek staff and our park staff, and they're probably more the ones who are having that observations or interactions with folks who are moving farther out into more remote areas or into the creek beds, and then as well, we still are depending on the community to use our encampment reporting process too, because that helps us identify new sites too, right? So I think particularly like up in the hills or near or adjacent to the parks and things like that.
Yes, next door would be a really good place to post a statement on if you have encampments further out into the bushes, please please make the right contact.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We could use Nextdoor for sure to be sharing that way to get us information.
Okay, good.
Renee, did you want to go into a little bit of that overall encampment data on this call?
So sure, let me screen share and I can talk a little bit more about what's happening just in terms of the kind of reports that we've been getting in sort of like the last quarter, over the last 3 months, and a look back over the last year. Again, it's a little bit of an unusual year because of the COVID, but all right, so I think, let me see. Can you see that? Can you all see that? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So just as a reminder, we had put this programming, this an encampment response team together a little over 3 years ago internally to the city. That's and then also bringing CityNet into that, but that's police and fire and streets and creeks and environmental services. And we had established a web form and a hotline to be able to get more information in from the public about what's happening out in our creek beds and parks and streets, and try to improve that data collection so that we could prioritize our resources and make decisions about how to manage these sites and then also get people the services that they need. So we had the web form. This is the web form link to it. And I know Jeff has been great about getting that out into the public, and we continue to advertise that as much as possible. We also have a hotline. Almost no one uses it, and pretty much everything comes to the encampment form, but we do have a number as well for those who are don't have access to a smartphone or to a computer. When you come into the web form, there's the opportunity to report either an encampment in and of itself, whether it's inhabited or uninhabited, or an individual in need. So if someone's has come across someone who is in apparent distress on a city street or in a park or something like that, they have the ability to also report that through this form as well. And everything is also in Spanish. And so with this link, it takes you in, and everything is translated for input. So with a snapshot of what has come through our web form in the last quarter, so that was April, May, and June of this last year, we had 467 reports from the public, and of primarily encampments, but also some individuals in need. Again, I think because CityNet does such a great job of doing their own messaging and interaction with the street teams, that a lot of it comes directly through them as well. And so when we're looking at this data, it's helping us understand, like, not only is an encampment inhabited or uninhabited, or whether there is a potential fire danger based on the impressions of those who are reporting it, but it also allows us to take a look at where that encampment is. And so because we have the regional action plan groups, the RAPs break down by waterfront, State Street, East Side, or even around the Alameda Park area, we're able to track those requests as they come in. And then we look at the data in more detail. So for example, was it a park location? Is there an attachment of an encampment to that, or a report? Is it on Caltrans property? That helps us in our coordination and communication with their team about work that we're doing on their property or that they're taking the initiative on. And again, for Union Pacific. So in the last quarter, we had 64 and 18 reports on their two areas. In addition, we have daily waterfront cleanups. We started these in November of last year. And so again, we still have teams that are working the waterfront in an attempt to minimize camping in that area. And then we conduct bi-weekly underpasses under the four most inhabited and used underpasses in the city. So again, this is just a map of where those reports came in over the last 3 months. We also now geolocate all of this. So we have very specific addresses about where they're coming in, and then the number of reports that are coming into each of those areas as well. And then this is just a snapshot of what it looked like over the fiscal year. We had a little over 1,200 reports come in through the encampment form. And then this number of the 14 460. That includes also employee generated, city staff generated reports as well. So that's coming from our park rangers or from city maintenance crews, those kinds of things that are sharing information with us. So as you can see, we had quite a number of park locations reported over the last year, over 300 encampments. I don't think that's really any surprise. 163 on Caltrans locations. Again, we know that the on and off ramps are incredibly inhabited, and they certainly, grew during the time of COVID when we were maintaining everyone in place to reduce the transmission of the virus, and 34 on Union Pacific locations, which I think is a lot more fluid, because I think we know, like, if you're a lot of the Union Pacific locations are not well visible, but we certainly have a tremendous amount of campers out in those areas as well. So that's the snapshot of what we took care of this year in the city. If you wanted a little bit of a breakdown amongst the RAP areas, we had 193 reports in State Street, 167 on the east side, and then 506 along the waterfront. The 507, this is actually a compilation. So there are some data points that actually probably belong mostly in the waterfront in this area as well. But that takes a little bit extra kind of parsing out to get to those numbers. And then here's the map. And then part of why I'm showing the map all the way going out into Goleta area is just to show that because we share and publicize this encampment reporting form, we are getting reports of encampments or individuals in needs who are outside of our jurisdiction strictly. And so we do refer these, we have particularly the ones with Goleta and to the county, back out to them and their teams. And I am looking really forward to the work that the county has started to do in data sharing and potential data management for encampment response, so that we can have a much better picture of what's happening where, but also sharing that information more quickly so that we can respond to things. So with that, I will stop sharing, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Renee. I just got a couple of thoughts. First of all, I know as CityNet and SB Act also begin to work a little bit more closely with Goleta, and you've got Sharon and Montecito, and you've got us in the city of Santa Barbara. Sharon, it might be helpful if we created maybe a quarterly or some kind of a monthly check-in just South County to talk about some of these issues based on data. So the data is very helpful, Renee. I really appreciate it, because we're beginning to be able to see what's happening across our region. So I'm just throwing that idea out there as a potential way that we could be in constant communication. The reason why SB Act does do this collective impact model is because to have continuous conversations and education opportunities across the board for all of us is really important as we're trying to tackle this issue together. So I want to let the community know we do have these regional action plan meetings too. Today at 3 o'clock, we have our waterfront call. Friday at 10 a.m., we have our east side, and then Friday at 11 a.m., we have State Street. So if you ever want to join any of those regional action calls, looking at specifically what's happening in each of those areas, you're welcome to join. You can email me at jeff@SBAct. I'll put my email in the chat. And then also, Barbara, I know you've been working on, we'll get to questions too regarding Renee's. I want to get this out before I forget. Barbara, I know you were working on our data, kind of our database connected to CityNet with some of the data, because we had this goal of, trying to help 100 street exits in this year, working alongside CityNet and other partners. And we're well on our way to achieving that. I don't know if either Emily, do you want to speak to that? I know you've been going back and forth on numbers, so more than I've been in that conversation. But I think it's really important to let people know about the great work you've been doing and the success you've been having.
Yeah, I will say, Jessica and Emily and Brad, I saw a team doing outreach at near the county admin building last night, and I stopped them and said, "Hey, I'm with SB Act. You are doing an incredible, incredible job." I think I said kicking ass. And I appreciate all of the work you're doing for our folks. It's just, it's amazing. And it's amazing to see the number of individuals that you have helped exit homelessness and really exit the streets and put them in a stable environment to get them on that path to permanent housing. So the numbers that we have from Emily for last quarter, as well as separate work on the bridge housing that happened prior to the encampment response, and then the encampment response bridge housing, we're at 93 total street exits in the first 2 quarters of this year. So it's, and Michael asked the question about how we work together, and I will say that without you and the coordination and collaboration that we have across all agencies in the city of Santa Barbara, this would not be possible. And we know that there's still a lot of work to come, but to take a moment to celebrate that, show our gratitude, your teams, all of the frontline staff across all of our nonprofit service providers that make this happen, and that we do have a number of permanent housing units that are in process for development over the next 18 months to 2 years, that we are seeing a little bit. It might be a small light, but we are seeing a light at the end of that tunnel. So it's actually making me speechless. So please know that every time I see a CityNet person, I will share our gratitude with them and just the close partnership that we have. But Emily and Jessica, do you want to just provide any more context? You really do it all, and you follow that individual to make sure that they're successful in whatever pathway in terms of permanent housing happens. But specific to Michael's question of what is it that you do and the work specific to the city of Santa Barbara.
Thank you. And I'll let Emily take that question because yes, the team is amazing and they have worked miracles. I never thought we would have housed as many people as we have in the last 18 months. Do you want to share what your magic power is?
Sure. I'm not sure if it's magic power. It's just time and patience and just really a true passion for what we do. CityNet, we provide homeless outreach services and case management services to connect those experiencing homelessness to mental health resources, to income, job searching, and most importantly to housing. Our goal is to try to get every one of our clients in a housing program, whether that's through the city, through the county, through these emergency housing vouchers, and through private landlords. The way I describe case management is we help people do everything that it takes to be a human these days. And so whether it's, I need to get a hairbrush and brush my hair for my job application, like CityNet is there for those small details, as well as the big picture of, applying for SSI, SSDI, appealing for SSI or SSDI, which are higher, more complex tasks to do. And so we took a case study and we found that it takes about 60 hours to get clients case managed and ready for housing, and then from there we provide permanent supportive housing services to make sure that they stay in their units once they're housed.
And just to expand on that, these guys go above and beyond. One of our clients, his mother passed away and he had to watch the Zoom memorial the other day, and our team sat with him so he could process that. So we're with our clients walking through the good, the bad, all of it. When they're asked to leave housing, we take them and we help them get rehoused. So our commitment to the client doesn't end until we know that they're ready to be self-sufficient and, don't need our services anymore, but always have our phone number in their phone so they know who to call for an emergency.
Any questions for Renee regarding just the data report she was able to walk through regarding any specific regions or any questions over the whole? If not, I'd like to take, maybe we've got a couple other providers on the call, and I don't know, since this is a public meeting, if anyone from the Housing Authority or Cassie, if you have anything from Safe Parking you just quickly want to share as well. Why not take the opportunity to share a few more highlights or things in the works if anyone has anything they want to share. If not, no worries.
I'll just add,
This is Alice from the Housing Authority. Just our appreciation for SB Act and CityNet and everyone on this call and all of the efforts that happen before clients get to us. As Emily just mentioned, it's really significant. And so we wouldn't be able to do what we do without all of the efforts that precede our efforts. And so I think it's good for all of us to kind of hear the experience of all the different providers. And, you know, I'm just looking forward to being a part of more good work. And Renee, thank you for your report, and CityNet. It's really heartening and encouraging. And Rob or Cassie, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Just what you said, Alice. Good. I agree. Sorry, I think I was on mute. What you said, Alice, perfect. And just want to, I joined the meeting late, so I apologize, but wanted to let folks know that we are in the midst of receiving referrals from the coordinated entry system for folks that we can issue the emergency housing vouchers to. Out of the 215 vouchers, 89 were issued to the City Housing Authority, the remainder to the County Housing Authority. Both agencies are working together so that we have similar incentives to the landlord community, so that there's no confusion about what we're offering to the landlords in addition to the voucher rental assistance. And I think that's important. We're going to be getting out PSAs on that and other advertisements on outreaching to the landlord community to ask them to participate to get people housed appropriately in permanent housing. And this will also include ongoing wraparound services, because that's really needed for a lot of people to help keep them housed. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Rob and Alice. Anything, I also see Maggie on the call from Doctors Without Walls. They've been doing wonderful work in the parks with medical care, but also vaccinations for folks, really important during this time. So Maggie, if you want to share anything, open to you sharing as well.
No, I just all I want to do is say thank you to everybody. This is my first time I've attended this call, and I actually find that the information is really heartening. And really looking forward to continuing our efforts to support everybody in this work. Thank you.
All right. Any final questions or thoughts?
I just wanted to add, I think we get a lot of questions, many of us, about, hey, there's a lot of organizations that are helping individuals experiencing homelessness. How do we know what everyone's doing and what the needs are? And that has been the role of SB Act. So if you have the time and the availability to join us for our next all-call meeting on August 18th at 9:30, that's when we share the larger strategic plan to reduce homelessness and its impacts in the city of Santa Barbara, all of the work of the agencies that are coordinating and collaborating together so that we can share information, understand needs, be able to address gaps in the system overall, and work to advocate for additional resources and support. So we'll advertise that in future encampment response meetings, but this is definitely part of a very, I would say, elaborate effort to make sure that we're all on the same page and working and moving forward together. And I think Sharon brings up some challenges that we've all experienced, but absolutely willing to do the hard work to really focus and make sure that it does feel like a mutually beneficial and supportive partnership to all agencies involved.
Barbara.
It's going to be a long day if Jeff does not have strong.
I'll follow up on the idea of potentially some kind of a South County.
All right, so we're going to sign off. Thank you so much.
Bye,
for
everyone.
the contributions and the questions, and we'll see you at a number of meetings this afternoon. So thank you all so much. Hope you have a good midweek point.